Thanks everybody for joining us today for this webinar on grassroots education and how we can do our best to leverage our great exporters all across the country here to advance an agenda that supports business development internationally for small and medium-sized exporters. I'm pleased to be on with you today. My name is Luke Lindberg with my two colleagues, Rick Brana and John Saylor, to talk a little bit about how you can access your members of Congress and what that might look like. We're really excited about the opportunity that's forthcoming in Washington, D.C. at the National Association of District Export Council's annual conference. If you all are planning to attend, we have a great day scheduled on May 10th, where we're going to be inviting key committee staff members and members of Congress to come and spend a few minutes with us talking about trade policy and opportunities to support our U.S. exporters directly with the folks that make the decisions on Capitol Hill. And so we hope you're able to attend and join us for that component. Today's session is intended to help you maximize your time in DC, both with that specific event and also with scheduling your own visits to your own members of Congress as well. And so we have prepared a one-page handout for folks who would like to host those meetings. We can share that after this meeting is done, and are happy to use this as a time where we're going to walk you through kind of the process for scheduling those meetings, what some of our key talking points are, and as well give you a chance to answer some questions and have a few minutes of dialogue back and forth to share thoughts and ideas. So I will stop talking and just say thanks again for joining us today, and pass it over to my friend and colleague, Rick Grana, who's going to talk a little bit through a PowerPoint presentation that outlines some of the topics of the day. Thanks.
You're on mute, Rick.
Rick, are you still with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Now, yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, Luke, for the introduction. And here's the first message we wanted to be delivered. It's all about the commercial service. Here are some things that we wanted you to be aware of. I'm sure you are, since you're probably a member of the DEC or the NADEC. But through the national network of the UCACs and the U.S. Commercial Service, it helps small and medium-sized businesses. And promoting exports, the UCACs play a vital role to energize the national economy. Now, I'm not going to go over all that, but one thing that I did want you to know is the security that we are certain that they have told me that security is back to what it used to be before COVID. So we entered this statement on there as well. You can, by the way, you can have a copy of this presentation later on in the week, I believe, and you could go through it yourself. But right now, we just want to highlight some of the more important points. We're very fortunate we can offer you this toolkit and the congressional resources that allow you to use some of these tools and for the Congress. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this works in the next couple of slides. So the first targets that you might want to consider are the Senate and House Commerce, Justice and Science subcommittees, and as well as members of the subcommittee of the Senate Tourism, Trade, and Export Promotion subcommittee. If your House member is not on one of these subcommittees, you may meet a member from your state that is nevertheless, if your member of Congress is not on these subcommittees, it's always good to call them as well. Just a minute, I want to see something.
Can we get everybody who, please put yourself on mute, because we're getting background noise in here. So all of you, if you could please go to mute, that would be great. Thank you. Sorry, Rick.
So to reinforce the proposal in a compelling way, we thought that you would give some of your personal stories of what's working and is what not working for the companies, for the workers and the stakeholders. So as Luke mentioned, we're going to have a one page for you that you can read and also take with you on your visit. It's also, I'm just giving you a little summary about what you're going to see shortly. We have an electronic congressional contact report, and we'll get in more about that. This form is to complete the ranking section as it relates to the one-page handout. The NA deck represents, we've already said that, and which will automatically email the contents to Legislative Affairs, NA deck, and other appropriate recipients. So if you're new to your member of Congress, you may be unaware of the decks. The slide is a summary titled About the District Export Council. So you could take that page with you as well, because there's so many new congressional people that are members now that are probably not aware of what we do. And I know I have to do it as well. See the right column under the NA deck at a glance and a fact sheet. The NA deck is also providing, that is, again, we're repeating this, the one-page flyer for the top priorities on the first side. And actually it's going to be a separate sheet. Here is a little bit about the NA deck, the National Association of District Export Councils. You can see all the states and regions that we're in. We've got 61 local district export councils and around 1,500 members. This is the page that we were talking about that's about the district export councils. You could take that with you. It's very, very clear, very concise. I think it's a great intro that you can use on your trip. And you can also use it while you're in state at your own district and take it in. I take it into my Chamber of Commerce to some people, anybody that you feel that needs to know about that, especially if you've got some new members or new, not new members, but new people that you feel may be interested. This is a great recruiting tool, and we're always trying to get more members on our decks. This is the one page that Luke has made up. And Luke, did you want to talk a little bit about this? Market access is our #1 issue.
Yeah, so we have an actual PDF flyer that we'll send around. This is the content that's a part of it. But as we tried to summarize what issue set would be our most impactful to bring to the Hill, really we see the opportunity as creating a bipartisan consensus around advancing market access as a top trade priority for small and medium-sized exporters. There has not been much movement lately in the administration around market access, but on the Hill, we're beginning to see progress with a UK-US free trade agreement bill that provides trade promotion authority on the Hill being debated right now as an example. And so we want to continue to support those areas where we feel like there's actual chance for policies to make a difference and get passed. We've had some conversations as well with the Department of Commerce about some of their funding needs. It's a little bit more technical and a little bit less bipartisan. And so that's why we've identified market access as really the one area we want to focus our messaging and make sure that we're communicating the importance of it as we go about this business. And so we tried to outline an effective tool here that will provide you that you can take with you to those meetings as a leave behind.
One thing I wanted to mention about, and to get a lot of local, some of your other local associations and your chambers and economic development people, is the impact on the jobs. A lot of economic development people want to know about the jobs supported by exports pay 18% more than the national average. And I think if I was a small business and I was not exporting, I think that would be a tremendous type of information to use, that they may want to get some kind of interest in that. So I just thought that, if you go through these census one by one, there's a great story behind each one of them. And Luke and them have done a great job trying to help us with this issue. The next slide is about the pillars of the NA DEC network is to form, educate, advocate, and support. Luke, did you want to go over this as well, or would you rather I went over that? Or
I'm happy to, Rick, if that's helpful. Yeah. So this is really the vision of Jonathan Sukes, who is the National DEC chair. He really feels like the role that the National DEC should be playing includes these 4 pillars: to inform folks of what it is that our small and medium-sized exporters are doing, educate our companies, and then advocate and support them. And so advocate on their behalf and support them. So this is this is sort of the framework under which we've been discussing how to best position the NADEC in today's environment, particularly focused on DC.
Yeah. One other thing is when it says Education and Outreach Committee, if you go to the actual export conference in May, you'll see that there are some things about the Education Committee and the outreach, and also about the trade DNA, which is tremendous to try to get some export type of instructions in the high schools, at least 1 course per high school, and some type of information into the middle schools. I've also focused on that as far as to get our economic development people interested, because it's about training for jobs. And everybody knows that we need to have more people trained for any kind of job, but this is another tool in their belt that they could use to help with the younger generation. It's the younger generation that's going to help us raise up and get more and more involved in trade. And you need to start young, besides having the graduate schools that we all know. So there's other avenues. You're going to hear more about that as well. On contacting your let's see, pretty touchy on this thing. Contacting your senators and representatives. The first thing you can do, we're just giving you some options. A lot of people don't use that anymore, but if you did want to use the postal, it could take up to 6 weeks. This is the instructions on how you would do it. It's the best way for you. And you could read through that, do constituents correspondence. You're going to have a question now: who do I really want to try to contact? This is a tremendous little tool here. If you see in the red, it's got www.congress.org. We're going to show you a little bit about that. This particular slide, it shows you about this, and you put your zip code, and it's very, very simple. I hope everybody could read the print. I hope it's large enough for you to read it. But number one, you enter your zip code, and then you select all the individuals, and I'll show you that. So right now you've got the next view. This happens to be for our district, number 1 in Kentucky. You've got, of course, the president, vice president, you've got Mitch McConnell, Senator Rand, and then Representative James Comer. So you could click on any of those or all of those, and then what you do, you get this, let's see now, wait a minute, where's the next thing? You're going to get a list of them, and which I just talked about, but and then you put your message in there to them, what you want to do. I'm not touching this thing. Compose your message, and then you enter your information. Now, I do want you to know where it says home information on this particular slide. That's an anonymous person, but I can tell you, if you want to send any checks, money orders, or cashier's checks to that address, they would be greatly appreciated. That's just my joke there. But so quick pointers on how to reach your congressional member. Repetition is key. When inviting a congressional member to an event, reach out to the 3 key staffers within the office: the scheduler, the legislative trade assistant, the district or state director. By the way, on that past slide, when you do that, you will get the information about who are in those slots at that time. So that will give you that information. So when you do have the names of scheduler and the legislative assistant and the state or district director. There's a different type of emails. The House has the first name dot last name and at mail.house.gov. And then you've got the Senate, which is a little different. You got the first name underscore last name at mail.senate.gov. So you just need to pay attention to that. And I'm sure that they can give that to you if you call them. But it's always good to have this as reference. Sometimes when you hear it, it'll click in your mind a little easier to understand it. When you do a follow-up phone call to the scheduler, double check and verify the office received your invitation. They get lots and lots of emails. Sometimes you get lots of phone calls as well. And then it's better to write an optimistic and non-threatening letter. Members and staff like encouraging mail, and they will be more receptive. You'll be amazed at how far how far then your letter will go. You may have a member of staff that will not want to meet in their building. Some people, will meet you somewhere else. So always have some suggestions for alternative meeting places near the Capitol or other areas in DC. This is just an appointment example. You could see what we did back in 2017. This kind of gives you a little bit idea of if you're sending it to somebody. This is particularly some kind of a senator. And then they usually want you to answer these type of questions. So we'll go to the next one here. You have to give them your attendees. They always want to know who's in the district, and you could do confirmed meeting attendees. And then you've got, gosh, man, what? So this particular response was about the members that will be meeting. Then you put down your topics for discussion. Now, this is what was discussed back in 2017. It can be completely different for what you all want to talk about the current. Of course, there is no more NAFTA, so anyway. But this is giving you a little example of what type of issues that you may want to discuss. So now this is about the information to supply to your congressional delegates. Some of these questions that I was telling you, here's some of the examples of that. Besides all your contact information and your phone number and your email, they want to know your hometown. Now, this is mainly for the people that are in the district. Well, actually for the Senate as well, but then you put down your product. You could do your HS number or whatever you've got for whatever type of business that you're in. If it's a service, something like that. We happen to have our UCAC director that was going to go with us. And so we did a little couple of sentences on that. If you'll notice that she is supporting an informational meeting, but she will not be able to comment or anything on specific actions or endorsing policy, anything to do with any type of any funds for the agency. You could see also this is for our World Trade Center in Kentucky, and then one of our other leaders from Valvoline. And so they've got their HS code, some things like that. That helps them if they want to do any research, that they'll be able to have some more information on you and understand a little bit better about what you're trying to tell them about your company and about your possible problems that you may, issues or your problems that you may have. Now, after you attend your different meetings and that, we would like for you to submit this form. This is called a U.S. Representative or Senator Contact Form report. And we've changed this a little bit from last year. We've got a nice scan code for you. So we'll have these in a paper file for you at the registration desk, at the conference. You can scan that, and that'll help you get to where you could complete that form electronically, by the way. But at least if you've got it on paper, you could read what the questions are. You'll know what to expect you to complete the form quickly, instead of trying to get that just as soon as you can. So anyhow, I thought maybe, let's see what else we've got. This is the 8 regional hub directors. That's just an alarm going off. And then you could see from that about the different regional legislative coordinators. We would like to remind you about the annual export conference. And it is May 9th, and then the 10th is the visits to the Hill. Here's our contact information, which would be on the other copy of this webinar or meeting for you to, if you'd like to contact any of us. Do we have any other questions? You want to open that up, Luke and John?
Yeah, Rick, I think it might be beneficial, John, if you would jump in here and just talk a little bit about some of the folks we've invited to the Hill Day and what that schedule might look like, and the feel and look of the time on the 10th. Would you be willing to do that?
Yeah, hold on just for a second. Let me go down for whoops. Yeah, I'm just going to there we go. I'm going to talk about, we sent out about 20 some odd invitations that went to both the Senate and to the House. We're not inviting every single member of the House or the Senate, but really we went to the different subcommittees. I'm going to pull up my documents here. I can just get back out in my invitation letters that we did for everyone. And I just want to, so we're going to basically have our first meeting. It's going to be over. It should be on when you register for Hill Day on the 10th. We're over in the Dirksen Senate office buildings. We're in the Senate Armed Services Committee, their meeting room. That's where we're going to be. So I'm not going to give you the address right now, the room number, but it's on their instructions that we have provided for everybody. And just hang on just for a second. Just getting back to my files. There we go. And Hill Day. Okay. So we have, let me just go back. I'm just trying to pull up the emails that I've had to get the information. So basically, some of the key staffers that we've reached out to are on the House Ways and Means Committee for Small Business and the Agriculture Committee. Within Ways and Means, there is the Trade Committee. It's important because if you go on and if you want to take a look at your, as Rick mentioned earlier, to your member, your House representative, you can go on and if you click, just do a Google search on them, they'll give you, when you pull them up, they'll tell you what committees they're sitting on. And what's of interest to us is anybody that's on the Trade Committee or on the Small Business Committee, and also on agriculture, which is important. So what we've done is we've sent out an invitation to the staffers, both the majority staff and the minority staff, and we've invited the chairman and the ranking member of those committees to also attend. We're waiting feedback from them. That will be, it's important that we do that. The main key for us is to make sure we have the staffers there, because the staffers are who you really want to make the contact with and you can do the follow-up with. It's nice to have the members. I don't know how many members are going to come. It's still early. We still got a ways to go and start getting the feedback. I really won't know until probably a week out what members are going to be attending. But as far as the staff goes, it's important that you make a contact with those staffers. They are the ones that are going to drive it. They're the ones that do the follow-up. They're the ones that can also direct you to their district offices. We did the same thing on the Senate side, reached out to the Finance Committee. There's a small business on the Senate side. It's also on the trade committees. I drafted, we drafted some, we drafted some letters to everybody with a standard package about, the invitation to them and also to their, to their member itself. And then there was also an attachment about the District Expert Council, who we are, what our goals and objectives are, what we're looking for, and what we absolutely would like to talk about. So we had, and I'm getting requests in all the time from other DEC members if I would extend an invitation to a particular member of the House or to a member of the Senate. I got one yesterday to ask if we could send one to Senator Shaheen, which I did, to her staffers, and sending the invitation on that. So we're doing that. It's all of this is not a mass mailing. It's individual addresses addressed to those particular people, asking them to come, giving them the time and the place when we're having a meeting. So to give you an example, we are starting at 7:45 in the morning. As I said, it'll be in the Dirksen Senate office building and the Senate Armed Services hearing room. If you can't find it, get back to us and I'll give it to you, but you can write this down if you want to anyway. It's S as in Senate, D as in David, G as in government, 50. That's the Armed Services hearing room at the Dirksen. So we're going to start at 7:45 with a continental breakfast, and followed by that, the first session will be from 8:30 to 9:30, which will be on the small business with staffers, so we can have an open discussion of what we're looking for. That will be followed by a meeting from 9:30 to 10:30 with the Ways and Means Committee. And that will be followed by from 10:30 to 11:30 with the Senate Finance Committee. And for those of you who are not familiar, all trade aspects in the Senate is in the Senate Finance Committee. So it'd be interesting, who's going to be there, but you can check to see with what your member, both on the House and the Senate, and see what committees they're belonging to. So we have a full schedule. We want to wrap up by 11:30 because we have asked all the members who are there to please, all the DEC members who are attending, to give them the full afternoon so they can hit the hill and meet with their individual members of Congress. I can speak on behalf of the Virginia delegation. We have 6 meetings that are set up in the afternoon on the 10th to meet with our appropriate representatives. We are not going to meet unless they happen to come down. If I get a chance, I may have a meeting with our 2 senators. But right now, that's how we're setting up, and we encourage everybody, if you can, if you're going to be there in the morning, try to contact, as Rick mentioned earlier, your member of Congress, the schedulers, and see if you can get in to see them at a set time in that afternoon. If you want guidance on how to write the letter, you've got a letter there, but you can always reach out to me and I can give you sample letters of what we sent out, so you can also extend that out to them. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Luke and Rick.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to share with everybody? Well, good.
The dress code for that event, do you need to have a tie with a suit or just a suit without a tie?
I would suggest you be, dress business. It's not business casual on Capitol Hill. Let me put it that way. So you'll see people walking around, but usually they're visitors that don't have a coat and tie on. So, for the women, it's a dress or pantsuit is fine. But for the men, you should have a coat and tie on.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I ask, for you both to give us some pointers on how to get the attention of the staffers to our emails. I have spent a lot of time working in the House of Commons, and my experience is that the phone calls still work. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, you can, again, when you go on with Rick gave you the link, but you can go on, again, the easiest thing is a Google, you'll get a phone number.
Yeah.
Remind you of the fact you can call the office, you could talk to them, you can make a request. And we've done that a lot of times. We've had a quick meeting come up. You know, I'm not sending them an email, I'm going to call them. And but sometimes the problem is, and it is a problem, you're going to go straight to voicemail.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got to leave all the information and for them to call you back, and they will eventually, but if you don't hear from them a couple of days, you call them again. If you have an email address for them, send them an email. Like Rick had mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's follow up until you get a response from them. Don't forget, and we say this all the time, in the years we've been doing presentations, these members of Congress, their staffers, they work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. They're there to serve us, and just keep that in the back of your mind. They're not going to blow you off unless you're a complete pain. And we do have people that are not in the deck, but you could talk to a lot of staffers and those who worked on the Hills. They've had to deal with people that are almost virtually impossible to deal with. But just keep that in the back of your mind. They're there to work with you, especially, you know, if you're dealing with your district. And this happened to us last year at the DEC conference. We had some members who wanted to have appointments on the Hill, and they wanted to meet with members from other states, you know, and their staffers. And we said, no, you really can't do that unless you're going in with somebody who's in that member's district or somebody within that state. Keep it within your state, your district, for those meetings. Try not to go out and visit somebody. If you're living in California, you want to go meet, you know, Chuck Schumer's staff in New York, you're not going to have any luck doing that. They're just, every member of the House, every senator, or their staffs, they're geared to their constituents. I mean, they got national issues you're working on, and they can do that. But for us, let's stick to the local, to your representative and to your senator. But don't give up. Don't give up on trying to contact them. You got to be diligent on that.
What we've done in Kentucky, though, is we have 6 districts. Usually the congressional districts, it depends on what the issues are for that district. And if you, like, we don't have much time now between now and May the 9th, but I'm speaking for long term. If you start in the district with the staffers that are in state, with the field director in state, and introduce yourself, and you get to know them some, and then it will go up, and they'll be aware of you when you do call up there, or you could tell them that you want to talk to them up there later on. But that's just one method. But like you said, when you go up there, you want to go over the issues that, and sometimes, I'll give an example. I have a senator named Rand Paul. He's fairly well known. He is not really interested in our trade agenda. But if you want to talk to about some of these other issues that he's very aware of, then you could have a better chance at that. So you don't want to, waste their time and your time if some of them actually have some things that they're really working on at the moment that's pretty hot.
Yeah, I would also suggest, again, going back and go onto their individual websites, and you'll see the hot talking points, the issues that are important to them. And if it's something that's of interest to you, you can do that. One of the other things too, when you go in, when you get in to meet with your member of Congress, it's always important to talk about something that's going on in their district, the businesses that are taking place in their districts, how many people are employed in that district that are involved in international trade. They want to hear that type of information. I mean, you could talk about the general subjects that we're going to put out for the national deck and what we want to talk about, But when you have the individual private meetings with them, they want to focus in what's going on in their particular district. They really want to know that information. It's very helpful. And we've always offered again, in turn, because a lot of times these members, they're staffers, they don't know who to contact. So make yourself available to them. Say, here's my phone number, here's my email address. If you got questions on what's going on regarding these issues, please do not hesitate to contact us. We got a wealth of people out there that can help you identify the issues that you're looking at if it comes to the trade issues, the small business issues, or things like that. So make sure you do that.
I think one other thing is, and I've already said it 3 or 4 times, but if you mention economic development, it's just what John was alluding to. But if you mention a project that is about economic development, it's just coming in, or it's a possibility, like a big battery company coming in or something like that, or whatever it is. And not only that, but right now, workforce development is a big, big topic. And if you want to talk about that, that's one thing that you can use about the trade DNA. You tie it in with workforce development, and they'll start listening. Say, wait a minute, what are they talking about? But if you just come in off of something that's really cold, even in the chamber, you have to get their attention, because there's a lot of other people competing for their time. Just like Ursula, I know that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, you may come across some members, and they're in there, who are trade protectionists. They don't like trade, and that always makes for a really interesting conversation to talk to them about their districts, and how most of them don't realize, that what goes on in their district, that it's full of trade. And I always like to bring up the comment about how much, my constituents, they don't like trade. It's all about buy American. I said, great. I said, do you have a Walmart in your district? They go, oh yeah, of course we do. And I said, I bet your constituents like shopping at Walmart. Oh yeah, they love Walmart. I said, have you bothered to go in there and just walk through the aisles and pick up any item and see where it was made? 85% of the stuff in Walmart is imported, and by the way, the last thing I checked, if I remember, we don't grow bananas in the United States, and you can get bananas 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. I don't care where you are, in the middle of the winter, the hot of the summer, they're there, and that's all trade. They don't think about stuff like that. And we love to use the automobile industry and what they're doing. There's so many examples out there. So they're kind of narrow. And I said, I don't want to insult them, but I mean, it becomes an education process, not only for the member, but the member has to educate their constituents as well. So it's, it's just something to bear in mind. Hopefully you don't come across that, but they are on the Hill.
What I would suggest is that everybody going to the Hill prepares a fact sheet about their specific district, quoting some definite examples, as you suggested, of how many new companies have been set up, what companies are doing trade with certain countries abroad at this moment in time, because actually they appreciate that. It saves the staffers having to look it all up. It also gives you immediate facts to put in their faces. As John has just said, they need educating. And I think you are uniquely placed to be able to do that. And I don't think we on the National Debt can do that for you. You know best what is going on in your region. So I would strongly suggest that you do take some time. You've probably got most of this stuff. You could also get some of these facts from the local US Department of Commerce officials, or even your local, if you have you have World Trade Councils or something like that, they will have some of these facts. So I think it's time well spent.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't been up at a Hill before, when you go up there, take something with you that you can leave behind with the staffers. And don't give them a book. You got a 1-pager or something like that they can handle, because I'll tell you the truth, you may have a half an hour with them, 45 minutes, good luck if you could ever get an hour, and good luck if you get time with a member themselves. But just remember this, when you walk out that door, somebody else from another issue or something else, they're coming in the door to talk to them. They're getting this all day long from everything. So you got to leave them with something they're going to remember you by, because, 15 minutes after you're gone, they go, well, who was that? Why
Yeah,
are they
so-
here?
so that-
they're on to another subject.
That's where this one pager that we've developed that talks about our number one issue set of market access really comes in handy, because the reality is the members intentionally will play off each other if they're hearing different things, right? So if they're hearing that the small business community, is more focused on pick a different trade matter, that's not what they're going to focus their time and energy on. But if the different offices all hear the same thing, no, we have a united front across all of our states and districts about we want more access to more markets, that's what they're going to focus their time and energy on. I think that's why that's the role that NADEC is trying to play, is really to help steward a thought leadership piece that you can leave behind, so that we are saying the same things and they're saying, well, I had this really great conversation with a small business that employs 15 people in my district, and they could grow their sales to, let's make up a country that we don't have a free trade agreement with, right? And find a way to expand their sales through a new market access tool. So I think hopefully the fact sheet we put together is comfortable for you and is a good leave behind. But agree, if you can come a little bit prepared to talk specifics about your district, that's helpful. But as long as we can maintain a unified front on the messaging, I think that's important too.
Yeah, I think something else you should do too, which we do in the Virginia decks, and we have 11 districts. Now California, 54 or something like that. So, but what we've always done, we go out, and I know Rick does the same thing, is that when we meet with them, we always extend it. We would love to host you for a breakfast or a lunch or a reception back in the district. When you can, we could set this up with your schedulers so we could do this. That's what they want to do, because, they're back in the district all the time and they want to meet, they need to meet with their constituents. Now, there's another reason to meet with the constituents, because when they run for re-election, they're going to want money. Not that we're over there, but come on, bottom line, that's what it's about. But at the same time, you want to offer them the opportunity to come in and speak to the trade committee in the district, and then your deck can arrange this, set the whole thing up, invite them in. You develop that relationship with the district office, the main office, but they like to do that. They like to go out and have these things already prearranged. All they got to do is show up, shake hands, and talk. That's all they have to do.
Right.
Yes, I agree. That's my experience too.
Well, yeah. and
So
John-
I'd be curious if we have other questions from the audience here. We've been doing a lot of talking. Anybody else have any questions or things we can help specifically target or focus on?
Luke, since it's my first time, I want to be on the Hill. It might be good to have what we call a buddy system, someone from my state to go with me, because if you go by yourself, you are a novice, you need a guide. So you need a mentor to go with you. That might be something good to do.
What state are you in?
I'm in California. In fact, yeah, somebody told me Fred Latuparisa will be there. So he's from California too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
would
agree.
love
That's a good option.
Yeah.
Eddie, it depends on what part of California, but I can tell you from Kentucky and from the NA deck, from the agenda, we've had some interest already from some of the staffers wanting to attend the agricultural that we're having the topic issue on. I think that's another big topic at the moment, is about agriculture, what's going on with that, about China and all different aspects of that. So if y'all want to mention that to your people before that date, you may get some more interest. We need all the people to attend some of these different type of wonderful presentations, and I think you're going to be very, very pleased with the export conference.
For those who haven't
Looks
been
like
here before.
Mr. Haynes has a question here too.
Yeah, hi guys. So in 2000, I think 17, John, we went out and went to the Hill and we were pushing for additional staff for the commercial service. And we had some really basic lead points that said, you know, hey, Mr. Congressman, you know, hey, legislative guy, you know, for each dollar you spend, it's going to generate, well, I can't remember what it was, $300 back to the economy. And that seemed to resonate. But I'm not sure how to draw that information back down. Sorry, I didn't realize that was closed. I'm not sure how to draw that information back out to have those kind of, on top of the basic main points, to have an attention grabber. Do you have any suggestions?
I think we're gonna go over this on the first day of the conference
Okay.
on the 9th. And these are questions you need to bring up. And I know that Jonathan is reaching out to get more information, exactly what you're talking about. You know, we had a conference call the other day on the National Deck did about, you know, how much money that Commerce is going to get. You know, I mean, what was it, Rick? Like $65 million?
Yeah.
And it's going to handle like 50 positions or 50 some odd positions and offices and other stuff they had to have. And we know that's not enough, but you know, it's something. And so we'll have that information and more data on the 9th that we'll be able to provide. And because we're going to have a session, I think we're going to be load everybody up before you hit the Hill on the next day. But also when we all gather that morning of the 10th over at the Dirksen building, we can also provide additional information to you that you're basically locked and loaded and ready to go in and have these discussions. But I know, Jim, that you've already asked this question, and I know you've gotten, but because I saw it out there that they are getting you the background information on that, but we have done that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
much
thought,
appreciated.
Jim, you were getting that. Yeah.
Much appreciated.
And what we can do, we're going to be sending out a communication to all the attendees before the conference. So we're going to be asking them who is coming to the Hill. We can also ask them who would like to mentor somebody else coming to the Hill. So we can actually, hopefully we can match you all up and get you all introduced or in the morning on the 10th before you actually go to your meetings.
Sure you could. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, does anybody have any other questions? Or we could always communicate by email. I know John and Luke are anxious to hear from you.
Yes, there's one question from Carlessa in the chat.
Okay. What's the question?
You want to read it, Heidi?
Oh, sure. Carlessa says, I'm in the semiconductor industry. What are some key points that I can discuss with the staffers?
CHIPS Act.
What'd you say, John?
I said the CHIPS Act.
Oh.
Yes. So I think this gets back to the key point here of what we're really trying to do, generally speaking, is unify our messaging, right? And so while there are specific points that may be important to raise on an individual basis, like for your specific industry, what we at the NADEC are trying to facilitate is really a unified approach to the Hill and selecting kind of, you're going to get 15 or 20 minutes with a person. And so you're really going to be able to get one key message across. And the key message that we've identified that we feel is the most likely to have bipartisan support that we can discuss with both Democrats and Republicans and actually potentially see movement on is around market access and opening up new trade agreements and promoting American products overseas. So through that market access point. And so we are probably not best positioned to specifically help you identify, from my perspective at least, what a the talking points around the CHIPS Act or anything else would be. I think we're trying to encourage you to take a look at this one pager that we developed and cater your points around what is on that one pager and deliver that message. Because if we all deliver the same message, it's going to be more impactful than if we differentiate industry by industry or segment by segment. So that would be my recommendation for my seat. But I think John's going to chime in here too.
Yeah, and I was going to say that the best thing to do, because you're right, Luke, we got to stay on what we have, what the deck is pushing on. That's why we're there. But when you're leaving, you can always mention to the staffer, I'd like to get back to you to talk about our specific industry. And we'd like to talk to the congressman about this because it's affecting blah, blah, blah. So, because you got 30 seconds to say that. Give them your card. You get their card. Tell them I'll email you another request so we could talk about it. We'd like to further this discussion even in the district, and leave it at that.
Could I just chip in something for the lady who mentioned microchips? And that's to say, the big thing about microchips is that Russia is getting all its microchips from third-party suppliers, and it's usually small companies or that have been set up in the last 18 months. So it's going from China to a second party and then on to Russia. That's a big issue. And America's having a really hard time trying to trace who all these people are.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you on May the 9th.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.